have to deal with any naysayers with this video. Trust me, I got plenty of them.
Sometimes I feel like we don't give enough credit to animals in video games, unless they're anthros. But horses are an interesting lot, whether they're capturing our imaginations in the wild or serving as companions or beasts of burden. And for those of you who don't follow the Chinese zodiac, 2026 is the year of the horse. The fire horse, more specifically, but that's not necessarily relevant to this list. Of course, we have no shortage whatsoever of horse-related media, whether it's MLP or SBR. And of course, video games are no exception, whether realistically proportioned or, as I mentioned earlier, anthros. So how about we talk about them, because who else is gonna? And because I like to cook my chicken with Cajun seasoning, I'm also including horse-adjacent animals into consideration, like pegasi, unicorns, or what have you. Alright, saddle up and meet me at the starting line and get ready to ride. It's game time! We've seen some interesting steeds in the world of Monster Hunter, mainly the Palamutes from Rise and the Sacrets from Wilds, but we usually don't see hunters riding horses, which is honestly a bit of a head-scratcher. So that means we turn to the menagerie of monsters that meet the business ends of our weapons, and that brings up... My Little Pony... Ah! Yeah, those who have followed me long enough may know that my relationship with the Kirin is anything but pleasant. You might take a look at this unicorn with scales and think, how is this stinky dude an elder dragon? And yeah, not only is it the smallest elder dragon, it's the smallest large monster in the entire franchise. An elder dragon resembling a unicorn is smaller, on average, than a great jaggy. But do not be fooled by its commonplace equine appearance. This thing has the power of a thunder god and the temperament of a bucking bronco. And as anyone who's fought this thing can tell you, that's a dangerous combination. When you combine the speed and evasiveness of a show horse with the power to call lightning from the heavens, you're gonna start regretting carving up all those Kelby for horns. And not only is that lightning powerful enough as a weapon on offense, but it has an armored mode where it covers itself in lightning, leaving it near immune to melee damage except for its head. And yet, as aggravating as it can be to fight, there's a silver lining to all of this. In Monster Hunter stories, there's a chance you can hatch one of these guys as a Monstie. And in stories too, you can harness the power of its subspecies, the Orochi Kirin. They're powerful allies to be sure, but imagine trying to make a saddle for those things. I can only wonder what kind of materials they'd need. Uma Musume Pretty Derby. I wasn't sure whether this even counted, not because these are horse girls, but because the anime actually came out before the mobile game. But since this is a multimedia franchise and the game was announced first, I figure I can bend the rules a bit here. And let's be honest, race horses are far from the most unusual thing to be anthropomorphized, even in gacha games. Anyways, like I said, Uma Musume features a wide assortment of horse girls which are based on actual racehorses past and present. From portraying the lovable loser Haru Urara as a super cute airhead, to the adaptation of Tokai Teo's perseverance through multiple injuries. But one of the most unusual stories, both in Uma Musume and in real-life horse racing, is that of the rage-baiting chaos gremlin known as Gold Ship. I've seen quite a bit of fan art of this spaz on my feed of late, and honestly, she is absolutely unhinged. I mean, when 3 of her victory poses are a POV of being attacked by her, you quickly realize that Handful doesn't even begin to describe her. From pulling pranks on her fellow Umas in school, to hanging back at the start of a race only to surge past everyone on the home stretch, to being an in-universe and sometimes actual VTuber, Gold Ship is looking for one thing and one thing only: having fun on her own terms and no one else's. She is a straight-up menace, and fans love her for it. And the funny thing is, the real-life Gold Ship she's based on is even more unhinged. Active from 2012 to 2015, IRL Gold Ship's 11 major horse race wins only tell a part of the story. This horse had a reputation for being quirky due to his very unpredictable behavior. Case in point, in the 2012 Satsuki show, during a disastrously muddy race, Goldship came from last place to win by moving into the inside corner, the part of the track everyone else avoided. But he also cost gamblers nearly 12 billion yen when he attempted to imitate another horse in the Takarazuka Kinen in 2015, resulting in a late start and a second to last place finish. Yeah, that's VTuber behavior alright. It's said that Goldship's owner didn't pray to win, but for Goldship to just be normal. Given the Goldship we got in Uma Musume, I freaking believe that. In the southern reaches of the Galar region, there exists an area known as the Crown Tundra. It is there that many legends have been told. One legend tells of a mythical Pokemon, Calyrex, known as the King of Bountiful Harvests. Said to have once ruled all of Galar, Calyrex was said to possess the ability to grow fields of flowers and rich harvests. But its true power came from the faith of the people, and the bond it shared with its faithful steed.
Question is, which one do I go with?
Yeah, depending on the kind of carrot you plant, you have a choice of 2 legendary horse Pokemon to play the role of Calyrex's mount in the story. And both have their merits in their own right. Steed the First, Glastrier, is one of 5 Ice-type legendaries and one of the most killing examples of the type. Known more for its hardiness than its speed, it generates super cold air from its body, enough to freeze the ground solid. Its arrogant and competitive nature was tamed by Calyrex, allowing the king to channel winds as cold as 508 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. In other words, cold enough for Packer fans to put on a jacket. In battle, Glastrier is a tank, relying on its power and defense. Its signature ability, Chilling Neigh, raises its attack when it knocks out an enemy, and when Calyrex unites with his steed, Ice Rider Calyrex unleashes the devastating Glacial Lance to all adjacent enemies. Though being a pure Ice type, trainers may opt for the more ghostly Spectrier. A Ghost-type special sweeper, this spectral steed has a kick capable of separating an enemy's soul from their body, and can even steal the life force from sleeping beings. Despite having poor eyesight, its other senses are heightened to the extreme, making it basically the Daredevil of Pokemon. When combined with Calyrex to form Shadow Rider Calyrex, it can run 1,000 miles in a day, transform its spectral mass into a black hole for life energy, unleash its signature Astral Barrage, and duel against school kids for legendary cards. Honestly, both of these horses are imposing, and doubly so when mounted by their king, so I don't care which one is canon. And yeah, I could have gone with the OG Rapidash being the year of the Fire Horse and all, but it's been sorely outclassed over the years. So, Royal Mounts it is, I guess. Turns out there's quite a few Elder Scrolls fans in my community, and while I'm not a fan of Bethesda personally, especially after what they did to Tango Gameworks after Hi-Fi Rush, I'm not going to deny the influence they have had on gaming, for better or worse. The Elder Scrolls in particular was one of the series that pushed the expansion of open-world gaming. This was important not only in the scope of the game's worlds, but in the path your adventures could take. In the case of Oblivion, choosing the evil path could lead you to the Dark Brotherhood questline.
Gee, these guys sound like a friendly bunch, huh?
Needless to say, a questline that takes you down the dark path would reward you with an equally dark prize. That prize being a steed worthy of the knight, the horse known as Shadowmere. Now, Shadowmere is a special horse with glowing red eyes that signify he's evil. Well, he or she. The horse has been referred to by both pronouns. So I guess that makes Shadowmere gender fluid? Anyways, this horse has lived for over 200 in-game years, so they're basically immortal. And I don't just mean long-lived, they have insane regeneration and can recover from wounds in battle almost instantly. And even if they fall in the line of duty, they respawn in a matter of days, literally rising from the ground. Shadowmere has quite a history behind them as well. They were once owned by Lucian Lachance, who was a speaker for the Black Hand, the ruling council of the Brotherhood, and the two shared a special bond. Through completing the Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion, he entrusts the horse to you. Not only that, you can also obtain Shadowmere in Skyrim. You know, the game that Bethesda couldn't stop releasing one more goddamn time! This time, it's revealed that Shadowmere has been under the care of Astrid, the leader of the last remaining Brotherhood Sanctuary. Upon completing the Dark Brotherhood quests in this game, Astrid entrusts Shadowmere to the Dragonborn, who by this point has been appointed as a listener by the Night Mother herself. And yet, Lachance maintains a bond with his old companion even after his death. I guess it's true. Darkness never truly goes away. It's quite a story, but is it worth the dark path? Quite a few people think so, apparently.
Okay, so here's a little pro tip. If you see a horse with a crimson-red mane, that is your cue to get the f*** out of there!
In the world of Dynasty Warriors, a world which makes a stage show out of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, there are two names to run from really fast. Those names are best described by a saying in the Cao Man Xuan. Among men, Lu Bu. Among horses, red hair. Yeah, when a horse is associated with a warrior who strikes fear into all, that's a big deal. According to legend, red hair was believed to be a Fergana, or blood-sweating horse, said to have descended from divinity, and capable of running over 300 miles in a single day and nearly 250 miles in a single night. Originally, the horse belonged to Dong Zhuo and was given to Lu Bu by Li Su in exchange for his services. After Lu Bu's defeat and death, red hair fell under the care of Cao Cao, but none of his men were worthy of this furious steed. That is until Guan Yu, to whom Cao Cao gifted the horse in exchange for his services. This mighty general rode red hair with pride until his defeat and execution, when the horse was given to Ma Zhong as a reward. However, red hair chose to starve himself to death than serve anyone else. And let me say, they did a great job of translating this horse's legend into the games. Red hair is the fastest and most powerful horse in the series, and is also known for being incredibly stubborn. Only the mightiest of warriors can even dream of mastering this terrifying beast of battle. And even in later games, you gotta jump through about as many hoops as a show horse to be able to access this beast. Whether it's completing a difficult scenario, defeating one of the game's toughest bosses, or achieving any number of taxing conditions in order to prove your worth to this mighty Equus and claim his power as your own, it is not easy. But once you do, you have incredible power and unrivaled swiftness at your command, so yeah, I'd say it's worth the effort. Is it any wonder that this horse could only be tamed by two of the most intimidating characters in the franchise? Hell, he even shows up in the Berserk game as DLC. Now I don't even have to imagine how terrifying Guts would be on that beast. Okay, so, remember when a group of fans tried to make a My Little Pony fighting game, but ended up ceased and desisted by Hasbro? Well, the dev team, Main 6, still wanted to make a fighting game with quadrupedal characters, ended up getting help from Lauren Faust herself, and eventually we got Them's Fightin' Herds. Well, that game has had problems of its own, but I ain't here to be a doomicorn. Honestly, the idea of a four-legged fighter is quite an interesting take, and really had a lot of potential that had yet to be realized. Of course, being an indie fighter, the cast wasn't the biggest around, but better to have well-developed ideas. Case in point, Unicorn Oleander, who's basically... Bury the light deep within! Oleander is the self-proclaimed champion of the Woodlands and the resident rebel of her order. With the threat of the Predators, the unicorns of the Order were intent on staying out of it, confident that the light magic they worship would protect them. Oleander wanted none of that, deciding to become the Keykeeper on her own. At an unknown point, she came into possession of a book of dark magic known as the Unicornomicon.
No, I am not making that up.
It was through this book that Oleander made a pact with the demon inside, whom she refers to as... Fred. Okay, you try naming an eldritch horror and see how that goes. And now she wants to prove that dark magic can be used for good, no matter what it costs her. In battle, Oleander is a well-rounded fighter whose style relies on zoning and basic puppeteering with Fred. Her grabs can steal meter from her opponents to fuel her powerful specials, like setting traps with book pages and boosted projectiles. She's also able to double jump to cancel out of air moves, which gives her more aerial options. As a boss in the game's incomplete story mode, she has a 3-phase gauntlet, which progresses from a standard fight, to an amped-up fight with more moves and infinite meter, to a race against time to stop an insta-kill attack, though this third phase isn't necessary to progress. With intentions like this, you can see how dead set she is on protecting her home, though one has to wonder what might happen to her if the story ever continues. Though that's gonna depend on whether the new owners of the IP actually plan to do anything with it! While the early days of the PlayStation were dominated by the cartoon-style mascots of old, as technology improved, Sony moved towards more realistic proportioned protagonists and more mature stories. I guess PlayStation's style of stories have aged with their demographic. A prime example of this transition is Sucker Punch. Previously known for the Sly Cooper games on PS2, they transitioned to the superhero genre with the infamous series on PS3 and PS4, before shifting gears again to the open-world samurai action-adventure game, Ghost of Tsushima. The story of a samurai warrior who is forced to abandon the very code he was raised by for the sake of protecting his home from the ruthless Mongol hordes. And like most open worlds, the islands of the game aren't exactly meant for you to travel on foot. Thankfully, shortly after the prologue, protagonist Jin Sakai can choose one of 3 horses to accompany him on his journey. Once you choose one of 3 colors, you can then choose one of 3 names. Nobu, meaning trust, Sora, meaning sky, or Kage, meaning shadow. So, what are the differences between these 3 horses?
Nothing. Not one thing.
Yeah, it's just a matter of color and name. Functionally, these horses are the same. Of course, the game never tells you this, but it never hints that there's any difference either. That being said, whichever horse you pick ends up being a reliable companion to Jin throughout his mission of liberation and revenge. While you do unlock fast travel throughout your quest, the game's guiding wind mechanic makes it very satisfying to just explore the island on horseback. As for Jin's relationship with this horse, it's expressed not in any grand terms, but in more subtle ways. You see it in the occasional interactions between the two of them, whether in an expression of restlessness or just a rare moment of rest. Of course, Jin's horse is as swift as the wind and sturdy as the mountains. No matter what happens to the horse, he just gets back up as if nothing happened. Even a stab or falling off a cliff does nothing. But of course, there's one scene that fans of the game bring up when it comes to Jin's horse. In the last act, after Jin's allies rescue him from Lord Shimura's captivity, he springs his horse and makes a break for it, only for his horse to suffer a series of arrows from the other samurai. While they manage to get away, eventually the wounds from the arrows prove fatal as Jin's horse collapses. The scene is punctuated by the flames in the distance, the sorrowful music, and Jin's tearful last words to his faithful companion. Granted, circumstances forced Jin to obtain another horse for the final act, but still, even knowing that Jin would pay a heavy price for abandoning his old creed, this was a gut punch for people who played this game. Goes to show you that in war, there are no winners. Shadow of the Colossus was the kind of game that is a textbook example of your mileage may vary. The idea of a kaiju boss rush game in a large open world is something of an acquired taste. Granted, these bosses are a big deal.
I'd hire a co-writer to correct that, but chances are they'd leave that in anyway.
But more to the point, the Ancient Land is huge, which is to be expected given the sheer size of the colossi you'll be climbing in order to take them down. The thing is, though, a lot of the Ancient Land is just a whole lot of nothing. And getting between the giant you just felled and the next titan on your hit list would be torture on Wander's legs. I don't care what your running technique is, the last thing you'd want is to wear yourself out before you even get there. Thankfully, and logically, Wander has a reliable companion on his quest to mercilessly slaughter 16 endangered demon-confining behemoths in order to resurrect a dead girl. While we don't ever get to learn that much about Agro's backstory, this thoroughbred, at least she runs like a thoroughbred, is invaluable to Wander's murder mission. While she doesn't have any unique abilities per se, one thing that really stands out about Agro is her unshakable loyalty to Wander. She's with her rider from the very start, and it's pretty apparent that the two have been together for a long time, and she is always looking out for Wander. When the sap wakes up in the shrine after felling a Colossus, Agro is never far behind, just simply walking up to him like, okay, let me get you to your next hunt. Not to mention, she's not exactly an idiot. She'll get out of the way if you accidentally point your bow at her, avoid obstacles, stop short of sheer drops, or slow down if the path gets narrow. And her speed is a key factor in a few of the Colossus battles, such as against the 10th and 13th Colossi, and since you can hang off the side of her, she can provide you with cover from sight. She's also very resilient, able to endure and recover from injuries during battle, but Agro's most significant moment comes right before the final battle. As Wander approaches an unstable bridge, he realizes he needs Agro's help to get across before it collapses. But even Agro's speed isn't quite enough. Agro, knowing she's gonna fall, tosses Wander to the other side just as she plummets into the chasm below. This could be seen as symbolic of Wander losing his last connection to his humanity, considering what happens after the final Colossus is defeated. And yet, even after Dorman is sealed away and Wander is reduced to an infant, it turns out that Agro actually survived with just an injured leg. How about that, Wander? Your horse lived after all. Too bad you can't ride her anymore, you idiot. I doubt that From Software invented the art of punishingly challenging open-world adventures where one or two mistakes can result in death, but they certainly made an art form out of it. Ever since Dark Souls hit the scene, there have been devs that have been desperately trying to recapture the magic that their style has created. There's a reason the subgenre is called Soulsborne, after all. And one of the most recent gauntlets in FromSoft's portfolio is Elden Ring, a game that was hyped to hell during its development and sold gangbusters because apparently there are a lot of masochists out there. Of course, your journey through the lands between is a massive one, and it's not exactly the type of world you want to traverse on foot. And a world in ruin like this would be Redrum for any ordinary horse. Thankfully, you don't have just any ordinary horse. You have a spectral steed known as Torrent. You know a horse is badass when he materializes underneath you when you summon him, and you don't even have to climb up on him. And he's relatively hardy, more so than your average horse. He's resistant to fall damage to a certain extent, allowing you to jump down from greater heights than you normally could. Not only that, but he's also one of the few horses out there who can double jump, letting you change direction in midair. Because specters have no need for things like physics and stuff. He's also able to reach higher ground wherever you find spirit springs, and landing near them will completely negate fall damage. Torrent's also fond of Roa, Sweet, or Frozen Raisins, or you can heal up both of your health bars while riding him as long as you have a flask of Crimson Tears. It's also cool in any game when you can fight on horseback, and Torrent is no exception. Casting spells or launching arrows from atop your ghost horse must be so satisfying. Torrent also has a bit of backstory to him. Early in the game, you meet the horse in the company of your spectral ally, Melina. When she offers an accord to the Maidenless Tarnished, she grants them the spectral steed whistle which allows them to summon him, saying that Torrent has chosen you. This is important because it implies that Torrent isn't a horse that just anyone can ride. And later you find out that Torrent's previous master, whose identity remains unknown, also gave Ranni the Witch the Spirit Calling Bell, which he passes on to you, granting you the power to summon various spirits from ashen items. So this spectral steed is connected to powers granted to no ordinary Tarnished. That puts a great responsibility in your hands as well. And woe be to those who betray that responsibility. If you choose to become the Lord of the Frenzied Flame, Melina comes across the whistle left behind in a pile of ashes. No, Torrent didn't leave you behind. You left him behind. Any horse from Animal Crossing. Hey, a little horseplay is good for island life. Hecarim, League of Legends. They call him the Shadow of War for a reason. Horstachios, Viva Pinata. The only one with personality is in the tie-in cartoon. Pegasus Magic, Mega Man Star Force. One of the 3 stages of Planet AM alongside Dragon Sky and Leo Kingdom. The horse from Etopia. Even more horseplay is good for your game. Roach, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. They sure seem to end up in a lot of weird places. Horses of the Apocalypse, Red Dead Redemption, Undead Nightmare. They're biblical horses of destruction. What more can I say? And now let's see what the Arcade Nation has to say with this month's patron picks.
Spiral Pegasus from Mega Man X5 isn't just a horse maverick, he's also a figure of Greek legend. Couple that with him being a former Rebel Force member and having a boss fight that's heavily inspired by Storm Eagle, and you've got one memorable stallion.
Admittedly, when I first saw Pinata in Generation 1, I wasn't quite fond of the fiery foal. But then that changed after it evolved into Rapidash, and I grew to appreciate it more, especially after its debut episode in the anime. With a solid base stat total of 500 and balanced stats, it's quite capable of holding its own. And even gained a Psychic Fairy variant in Generation 8. Sadly, we haven't seen either one since then, but hopefully in Winds and Waves.
Was there any doubt on where I was going from the start? With The Legend of Zelda celebrating 40 years just like Super Mario, the live-action Zelda movie slated for next year, and the rumors of an Ocarina of Time remake getting more credibility after the shock announcement of the new Star Fox, The Legend of Zelda is gearing up for something big. Not that a masterpiece like Ocarina of Time even needed a remake in the first place, although to be fair, I can't assume every Switch 2 owner is subscribed to NSO, let alone the expansion pass. But back on track. All cards on the table, you don't need ghostly powers, monster lightning, or being the waifuification of equine chaos incarnate to be the best horse around. All you need is to be there when they need you most. And there are few things as memorable as Link riding on Epona across Hyrule. Do you remember meeting a young Epona back in Ocarina of Time? How Malon introduced you to her and taught you the songs she likes? And how about how you managed to win her 7 years later after being the crooked Ingo in a race? Twice! And even then you had to jump the fence. Yeah, iconic. Not only were you damage resistant while riding Epona, it was also the only way to summon big Poes which were necessary for a side quest. And riding on Epona made getting across Hyrule Field a lot faster. And with enough speed, fences were no trouble at all. And nailing an enemy with an arrow from atop Epona was so satisfying. In fact, Epona kind of became a symbol of 3D Zelda. Obviously, she appeared in Majora's Mask because it was, well, a direct sequel. You could get her back from visiting Romani Ranch, relearning the song, and practicing shooting balloons, and she was even more important than before considering you needed her to reach 2 of the game's 4 regions. Heck, they actually wanted Epona to be able to do more, but that stuff wouldn't happen until they brought her back in Twilight Princess. Fitting, since this Link starts out as a rancher. This time, he gets her back after she throws off some nasty Bulbins from the horde that attacked Link's home village. This time, you're capable of swordplay while on Epona's back, which leads to 2 of the most iconic moments from the game. One being the standoff on Eldin Bridge as you try to save Colin, and the other being the final battle against Ganondorf as you chase down the Dark Lord to give Zelda an opening to fire the light arrows to stun him so that you can strike him down. You gotta admit, it's thrilling as hell to chase him down like that. And given Epona's history, it's no surprise that she returned in Breath of the Wild and its sequel. The difference here is that you need an amiibo to do so. Kind of an issue, but at least you don't have to tame her unlike the other nameless horses in the game. Of course, if she falls in battle, which given how hard enemies can hit is a distinct possibility, you'll have to take it up with the resident horse god who has a twisted sense of humor. Not to mention, Epona is the namesake of a company that sells, what else, horse equipment. And she also became a battle style for Link in Hyrule Warriors. When you leave a legacy like that, there's no doubt that Epona deserves her place at number 1.
And with the Zelda movie coming up, I'm pretty sure we'll see some horse riding involved, given the kind of movie it's gonna be. And I'm pretty sure we're not gonna see anyone from outside the Zeldaverse here. This isn't Mario after all, it ain't here to tease new games. I'm the Quarter Guy, and until next time, the arcade is closed.
Hey there everyone, QG here. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, hype the video, and help share it around. Feel free to check out my live streams on Twitch or follow me on Blue Sky. If you want to help me out, you can become a channel member on YouTube or support me on Patreon. And check out the pinned comment for my current fundraisers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.